Marriage engagement photographers, videographers of Reddit. Have you developed a sixth sense for which marriages will flourish and which will not? What are the green and red flags? Wedding band guitar player here. Drunken gorilla-sized groom physically attacked us when we cut off the music after already going over our contracted time an hour. Mother of the groom got into the mix and pulled him back. Bride was in tears. Best man pulled out a Bluetooth speaker and kept the party going. We did not get a 5-star review. So that was a red flag. They lasted a few months. And I have to tell this one too. I didn't need a sixth sense when I heard that on their honeymoon, the bride cheated on the groom. So the groom's parents didn't want the photos or the video I had shot. Instead they wanted me to sue her for the remainder of the money they owed me. I told them I was sorry, but they signed the contract so they had to pay. The bride was a total bitch to him all day of the wedding. It was no surprise she did this. He was absolutely heartbroken. And yes, they sent me a check for the remainder, and I still have all the photos, developed and collecting dust in a pile still in the lab bag I brought them home in. This was in 2003, and I can't bring myself to throw them away. The best part? The groom called me 2 years later to do his wedding photos and video because he was getting married again. I was all set to do it, and then the new fiancé pulled the plug. Turns out she didn't want any memories of the first wedding being involved. So I was fired as soon as I was hired. Wedding videographer here. Had a couple fly us out to Iceland for their engagement shoot. Now the first couple of days were fine and everything looked okay, but in Iceland, some lodging options aren't very luxurious. The groom chose to book what was essentially a tiny bunkhouse, the ones meant for those summer camps, and the bride lost it and complained the whole night. Next morning things are pretty tense and our team continues the shoot as planned, even though it is incredibly awkward. Most of our plans fall through because they start arguing in front of a beautiful, solitary glacier for 2 hours. Our team can hear them yelling at each other half a mile away because there is literally no one else around 4 miles. We finish up whatever we could of the last day of the shoot and awkwardly said our goodbyes. Later on I learned that they broke up a month before the wedding. Red flag: the groom winking at both my assistant and I during the ceremony. He was not winking in the sense that he might have been tearing up or had something in his eye, but there was a part in the ceremony where the couple sat down and he would lean his head back in his chair, look past his soon-to-be wife and wink at me, or look over his left shoulder and wink at my assistant. It was bizarre. That's just Morse code for I'm a douchebag. My husband and I are wedding photographers. We've been pretty lucky so far and haven't had too many crazies. We have stayed friends with a few of the couples and see them regularly. The one couple we hope we never see again fought the entire wedding day. The couple barely looked at each other, it was so bad. Then we had to Photoshop a smile onto the groom a couple of times so he at least looked happy in the ceremony of all things. To describe what he looked like, I would compare him to a Polish meat butcher with transitions lensed glasses. Totally brutal. I have no idea if they are together still, but I would say not. Wedding videographer here. I try to get to know both people beforehand, so I can work in their hobbies' unique traits into my product. A big red flag is when one person is clearly trying to change the other. I had one dude who loved poker, craft beer, cigars, hanging with his rowdy friends, video games, etc. I planned a cool shoot where I had all his friends in an old west saloon. And he sees his bride-to-be, etc. But she steps in and declares, oh, he won't be doing any of those things anymore. Poor bastard just sat there in silence as I awkwardly had to plan them shopping for a Yorkie puppy instead. Halfway through post-production after the wedding, he called and said he was getting an annulment. I wanted to say could have told ya so, but I try to stay neutral. Green flags are just the opposite. Embracing the other person's habits, hobbies, interests, basically not being a controlling freak show. Party bus driver for almost 5 years. Often we would do the bachelorette and the wedding party. All too often we'd get a combined bachelor-bachelorette party, and those were the worst. 90% of the time it was the super controlling bride who didn't want the groom out on his own with his boys. When I was the office manager, I really tried to discourage this, as it seldom ended well. There would almost always be fighting and drama. We had a handful of ladies that we'd done 2 wedding buses for. Men, if your lady won't let you have a bachelor party but wants her bachelorette party, that's an enormous red flag. I was a wedding photographer for many years in the zeros. It was pretty easy to tell which couples were going to last and which ones would soon be divorced. The main behavior differentiating the two was whether they were on the same team, helping each other and lifting each other up in the face of the inevitable problems and stress that come with weddings. Good couples tackle problems together. Bad couples take sides and blame each other when something goes wrong. Used to be a wedding planner. Red flags: constant apologizing for their other half's behavior, attitude. Lack of input from one of them. Too much input from a family members. Anger, inability to make a decision and stick with it. Overriding a once joined agreement of something. At one wedding I didn't actually meet the groom till the day of. I just knew his name, Joseph. Edit: also when they are very young, have a small child and or haven't been together long. Green flags: when a couple mutually respect the other's wishes and compromise. Both present at every meeting. Supportive and patient. Friendly and respectful of staff. When you can tell they are both relieved to see one another again and it's like no one else is there. It's like an unspoken conversation with each other and makes me smile. Video editor here. I've had my fair share of wedding videos back then. Red flags: one partner is having a lot of fun, dancing and mingling, while the other is mostly sitting down. They aren't smiling except when taking photos. The vows are very fluffy or almost selfish. Like how you'd imagine an 11-year talking about their Prince Charming. Bonus: if the counterpart has something very short and not as emotional. Green flags: they can't keep away from each other. Laughing during the first dance, at the aisle, cake, speeches, etc. I know maybe cheesy for some, but themed weddings. People that can dork out together stay together. Not a photographer, but have been a wedding makeup artist for a decade. For me, I don't often meet the husband, so this is more my observation of the bride. I have a feeling my face looks like I'm trying to smile during a diarrhea attack, while I'm thinking you poor thing about the hubby. Red flags: the bride already trashed on mimosas at noon. The bride ordering everyone around. Bride having a meltdown about stupid shit like seating arrangements. Mother-in-laws that refuse to even sit next to each other to get makeup done. Bride talking smack about hub's family. Bridal party fighting with each other. Caring more about spending a ton of money and being a fancy pants than being kind to your loved ones. Green flags: they had Dick's burgers and a keg for the food drink. Super laid back people. When literally everything was going wrong, the bride and family were laughing and hugging and sorting it out. Like caterer didn't bring enough food. They ordered pizza. DJ didn't show. Bride made a playlist on her phone of her hub's fave music. And then my fav, they were both Harry Potter fans. The pre-ceremony gift and card, they gave each other the exact same gift and card. It was sweet as hell.